everybody, Tekking101 here to announce the winners of the random mystery contest that I did in the last review that I did not mention at all. But for those astute viewers out there, you know what it was all about. For everybody that noticed the tiny little Pochita next to me the entire review, congratulations! You win a free chainsaw. Okay, well anyway, moving on. There was no contest, I'm just messing with you. But still, I had a little Pochita back here and like 3 people actually noticed him, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, you could go pick up a chainsaw. I don't know. It's not going to be free, but you can check it out. All right, this will be One Piece Chapter 1065 review titled The Six Faces of Dr. Vegapunk. Ooh, ominous. You know, I was a little bit disappointed, though, because I was kind of hoping that they were going to do the thing where it's like, okay, there's 6 different Vegapunks, right? Plus the main Stella body we've yet to meet yet, all right? Although this chapter does give us an interesting look into the links between those 6 Vegapunk bodies, the satellites, and the main body, but we'll get to that. I was kind of hoping they were going to do a thing where we get introduced to like maybe 4 or maybe 5 of the Vegapunks, and there was going to be one of the Vegapunks that we did not get to see throughout the majority of the arc, and they show up at the very end. So no, we get to meet the remaining 3 in this chapter. So the ones that we have already met were Shaka, Lilith, and Atlas, and in this chapter we meet Edison, Pythagoras, and York. Okay, however, I want everybody to keep in mind there could be more than 6 satellite bodies, because that's the kind of stuff that anime and manga always twist around. It sets a precedent, like there's only 6 bodies, and then it's like, actually, there was Vegapunk 7 the entire time. He's lying dormant in his cryogenic pod, about to be awakened. Even Vegapunk himself thought he was too much to handle. Ooh! You know, something like that. It could be something like that, okay? Anyway, there is no continuation of the Germa cover story this chapter. However, we do get a really cool color spread of One Piece Film Red, which I actually just saw last night. And I really enjoyed it. I will be making a video about it. I don't know, maybe probably tomorrow. We'll see if we could do that. But it's an awesome color spread. We got Uta in the center with black wings now. Remember in the first poster, she had regular, like, white Skypian wings. Now she has, like, Lunarian wings. What's the deal with Uta having wings? Is she a Skypian? I guess you'll just have to go see the movie to find out. I will say this much. The movie does explain all the different little inconsistencies with her outfit in a very clever way. Also, we have a bunch of characters that are prominent in the movie in the color spread as well. We got, you know, obviously all the Straw Hats as well as Shanks' crew. I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but we also have Kobe there, Helmeppo there. We got Oven. Okay. I don't know why, for whatever reason, they decided to pick Oven. It could have just as easily have been like any other member of Big Mom's family. But Charlotte Oven is like, not like a main character in this movie, but he appears a lot. Okay, he is a relevant character in this. So, if anybody out there was a huge Charlotte Oven fan, we're like, whoa, Oven, yeah! There's like one dude that's like, Oven is my favorite character. My God, this is the movie for you. Until the next movie, One Piece, Film Oven. Alright, anyways, that's the color spread. Looks really cool. Alright, so we continue on with Sanji's group. So we have Sanji, Frankie, Nami. We also have Usopp there. Zoro and Brook opted to stay on the Thousand Sunny, and we actually open up with them. So we see the Labosphere phase of Egghead Island. So it's the giant egg that's above the clouds that are actually like island clouds, like in Skypiea, artificially created island clouds. We see Punk Records there as like underneath the eggshell. So the eggshell's kind of like cracked open, and we see Punk Records written across the top. So before we even get back to Sanji and Robin and Nami's group and everything like that, we cut over to the Thousand Sunny where we see Zoro and Brook, and Zoro brings up exactly why they decided to stay behind, and it's actually pretty logical. Zoro is like, yeah, you know, this is like a really cool island and everything like that, you know, the future technology and the robots and all, but this is still a government island. It should probably be the smart move that some of us stay behind in case they get captured. Alright, so Zoro and Brook are there, and Brook's like, oh, would you like some tea, Zoro-san? I was like, yeah, alright. So they're just sitting there on a nice little table on the Sunny, just drinking tea, just bonding. I don't know what Zoro and Brook would talk about. They would probably talk about their swords, to be honest with you. Not like that, but like Brook would be like, oh, Zoro, that's a really nice katana you got from Wano. Zoro. And Zoro's like, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's purple. Anyway, it has the power of a demon's trapped in it, apparently. I don't know what's up with it. So that'd be actually really interesting. Heaven knows we need more, like, interaction with the Straw Hats in that regard. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, if half of this chapter was just Brook and Zoro talking about their swords, I would love that. That would be really interesting to me. But whatever, no. They just have tea and they just start talking. Caribou is with them. So remember, Caribou was locked in the barrel. They let him out. It doesn't look like he has sea prism or anything. He's just probably like, you know, just the fact that Zoro is right there and could probably knock him out with conquerors at any given time. So Caribou's there, and he's like pleading with them. So we find out the situation with him, all right? So because Caribou did technically help Luffy out during Wano, providing the food so he can like revitalize himself to go back up and fight Kaido, they basically came to an arrangement. Obviously, Caribou could have not have stayed on Wano because, you know, what he would have done, he would have gotten up into Havoc and everything like that. So they came to an arrangement where it's like, okay, tell you what, I helped out your captain. How about you just take me off of Wano, you know, and because it's hard to get off Wano anyway, given the isolation policy plus the giant, you know, mountain it's on. So it's like, how about you guys take me on your ship, get me off of Wano, and you could just drop me off wherever. I don't care. Just, I want to be done with you kind of situation. That's what Caribou is basically saying. However, he didn't expect when he said, like, oh yeah, drop me off anywhere. I don't care. He was probably expecting to get dropped off on some, like, desolate, like, you know, deserted island, and he probably made his peace with that. It's just like, okay, fine. I was a prisoner in the Udon prison for months, and then I have to get roped into this war with two Yonko. You know what? If you could just drop me off on a deserted island, I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. I'll figure out a way to make it work. But no, it's not even that bad. It's like even worse. It's the government. It's like the government island he got dropped off on. It's like, hey guys, so I know our arrangement was to drop me off wherever, whenever, but can we, maybe the next island over? And Zoro and Brook are there, and he's like, yeah, thanks for helping out our captain. Anyway, so long, good luck to you. So they're just like, they don't actually see, like, we don't see Zoro, like, grabbing Caribou and, like, kicking him off the Sunny, although that would have been hilarious. But the implication is like, yeah, we're just leaving you here. We have no reason to continue on and drop you off somewhere else. You said wherever, and then this is wherever. So, bye! Have a wonderful time. Okay, so we now cut back over to the Vegapunk laboratory, which I actually, I've heard this is based off of Fuji TV's, like, main office in Japan. If you look it up, Fuji Television's office has, like, this big sphere on it, and I think an elevator that goes, like, right up to it. So that's, like, where Oda's basing this on. Makes sense, anyway. So, they're ascending on this elevator, and, you know, this is the One Piece world. There's a lot of anachronistic technology that's kind of scattered all over the place. Actually, we might be getting into the reason why that's the case by the end of this chapter. But Usopp and Nami, suffice to say, have never seen an elevator before. So imagine you've never been on an elevator and you're riding an elevator. Hell, I still love riding on elevators. When I was a little kid and we went to the mall, I'd be like, oh my god, this is magic. And today, I'm like, well, the mall is really depressing now, but this elevator is still magic, you know? So they're like, wow, it's crazy. Like, the stairs go up and then they go down and then they go up and it's like infinite. It's like infinite stairs. I play infinite stairs. You know, there you go. So they're ascending. They're having a great time. Then we have Lilith there. And Lilith, despite being the evil version of Vegapunk, is very helpful. She seems rather amenable to the Straw Hats now, if anything. So she's like, ah, yes, you know, this entire island effectively runs on, what's the best way for me to describe how this entire island is run on an energy source when these pirates don't understand anything? This whole island runs on fire. Fire good. Fire create energy in different ways that runs magic infinite staircase. Yes. And so she just says, like, yeah, the whole island runs on fire. You could basically take the raw energy of fire and convert it into a bunch of different kinds of energy, which is true. Although I love the immediate response. I don't know who's saying it. It's either Nami or Usopp. But one of their first retorts to that is like, so Lilith says, oh yeah, fire is where all the energy comes from. The first retort is, doesn't that mean that you're going to be burning a bunch of natural resources which will eventually be run down and cause, like, problems? And Lilith is like, oh, we're always researching alternative energy sources. I'm like, commentary! I get it! Da-da-da-da-da! Energy crisis. Okay. And Lilith is like, oh yeah, oh, by the way, if there was only like some kind of like infinite flame I could create, that could basically rival the sun. Like if I could create my own sun, then we'd be set. We'd be good in terms of energy, right? And by the way, there's an old Isaac Asimov story called The First Question that I really like, and you can listen to it on YouTube. It's out there. And the story actually opens up with humanity doing just that. They figure out some way, I mean, it's science fiction here, but they figure out some way to harness the raw power of the sun and directly convert it with like no energy loss to the earth to run all of our crap, okay? So that's a pretty interesting concept. Probably not going to happen, but it's a pretty cool idea, right? So, tuck that in the back of your mind for the moment. You know, Lilith or Vegapunk wants to create their own sun to run everything off of. We have the sun pirates that want to live under the sun. We have Nika, the sun god. So maybe just hold off on that for a moment. Wait a second. If Luffy is truly the power of a sun god, and Lilith and Vegapunk want a sun to run all their crap, maybe Luffy is the source of this infinite energy. He kind of does have infinite energy. Oh, is that where this is going? Like they find out Luffy can go into Gear 5th into this awakening form of the sun god fruit, and they just like take Luffy and throw him into a container and like, Luffy, you are the infinite source of energy. And it's just like, okay, I don't know actually. We'll see where that goes. Or it might result in Lilith taking like a DNA sample of Luffy, like a lineage factor sample, and then trying to replicate the Gumu Gumu no Mi or replicate the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika. That could also be a thing, so hold off on that. Because we're gonna see some other artificial devil fruits, actually the other one that Vegapunk created. All the other artificial fruits that we've seen in the story up until now were Caesar using SAD, and they were all zone fruits, okay? However, it was implied in an SBS. Now that's the limit of what Caesar can do. Vegapunk might be able to make Paramecia and Logia artificial devil fruits as well. And we're going to see an artificial Paramecia in this chapter, so get excited. Okay, let's just dust off all the Dr. Stone catchphrases in this one, okay? So they arrive at the top of the escalator. They arrive at the top of the escalator. There's this giant vault door, like this big metal vault door. And Lilith just is like, okay, follow me, and then she just walks right through the door like it's platform 9 3/4 in the Hogwarts Express, okay? So she walks like right through this door of like 3 feet of metal, and then obviously all the Straw Hats don't follow her because she's like, okay, she just walked through a wall. Hey, Lilith, let us in or whatever, and Lilith's just like, guys, you can walk through the wall, come on, it's magic, let's go. So before the Straw Hats actually walk through the vault door, Lilith is on the other side waiting for them, and she receives a call on her headset, and it's Edison. It's the third Vegapunk body. Edison representing flair or creativity, okay? And so after she receives the call, the Straw Hats then eventually like pop through the vault door. Like there's like, wait, what? Oh, okay, this is weird. So they all phase through the vault door, and even afterward, Usopp like checks the door, so they walk through, and then Usopp is like, and it's like solid metal again. So I'm not sure how that works, but it's a pretty effective security system, I would say. A giant vault door that can become intangible whenever to allow people to pass through, and then it turns back into solid metal. That's pretty cool, right? Anyway, when the Straw Hats enter the room, Lilith is gone. So whatever she had received on the call from Edison, it was something that she had to go to attend to, okay? So the Straw Hats walk through, and like Lilith's not there anymore. It's like, where's Lilith at? Where did she go? And then they hear a voice on the intercom system, which is Edison, and Edison's just like, yeah, don't worry about it. She had to go off and do something. Anyway, just keep walking forward. Keep walking forward. It's also mentioned that Edison speaks in a very strong Kansai dialect. Kansai is another region of Japan. It's south of the Kanto region, okay? So, yeah, just like in any country, in any part of the world, you know, you're going to have different dialects and, like, accents and things depending on what part of the country you're in. In America, probably the most common one is, like, in the South. He's like, hey, y'all, how y'all doing today? Just be thankful I don't bust out my Western Pennsylvania dialect. How How Yin's doing today? Yeah, people from like Western PA and maybe Ohio get it, but other than that, yeah. Okay, Yins, let's keep moving. All right, so yeah, but the Strahts are basically by themselves now. So, you know, we don't have Lilith or anybody guiding them, and Edison's on the intercom just like, yeah, just keep going forward, whatever, click, okay. So they're walking down the hallway. Nami has a moment where she has this very specific thing she wants to see. She's like, man, we should steal some future treasure. And Usopp's like, what constitutes future treasure? Like, what is that? What even is that? And Nami's like, oh, you know, flowers made of rare gems. And Usopp's like, that is very specific. So I like to think that, like, that's one of the dreams that Nami has, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, her main dream is to draw a map of the world or something, whatever. Her real dream is like, man, it'd be really cool if we could land on an island that has, like, flowers made of, like, diamonds, sapphires, and rubies. Now, that would be cool, okay? So it's like, all right, very specific. Hey, we all have random dreams like that. One day, I hope to find a place on this world that has a magic waterfall of nothing but iced tea. Lemon iced tea, not lime iced tea. I'd be very disappointed if it was... Okay, I could deal with lime iced tea waterfall, okay? If it was a peach iced tea waterfall, I'd be like, oh, all right, fine. But if it was a raspberry iced tea waterfall, I'm like, this is just, I got screwed over on this one, and I just walk away in a huff, okay? So we all have random dreams, okay? Nami's is flowers made of gemstones. Makes sense, okay? All right, so they're walking through the hallway, and they just kind of pass by another vault door, which is open, and we see Seraphim 4 written on this, like, this tube in the back. There's, like, this science tube that's filled with goo, and then in front of the tube, there's a Seraphim Jinbei. Now, keep in mind, none of the Straw Hats have met a Seraphim yet. And yes, while the Seraphim do have, they resemble Lunarians because Lunarian DNA was used to make them. King's DNA was most likely used to make them. Black wings and the white hair and the brown skin and everything like that. The only member of the Straw Hats that have met a Lunarian is Zoro, and he's back on the ship. So, none of them know what's up with this version of Jinbei, so they come up with like a bunch of different theories, like, Jinbei? No, I don't think that's him. Well, wait a second. I guess it could be Jinbei's son? Yeah, or maybe Jinbei turned into a kid, which is funny because that actually did happen in the last chapter with Bonnie's ability. So it's funny that, like, one of the... I like this scene. I like this scene because... this is 1065, right? This is 1065 chapters into this story, all right? The Straw Hats have seen so much weird crap at this point. They're finally beginning to be like, oh, we see Jinbei hanging out with, like, black wings and stuff in the middle of a future lab. Huh, okay. Well, let's go through the options, folks. All right, that's the real Jinbei, but he's been turned into a kid. That's a good one. Maybe that's Jinbei's son or, like, long-lost, like, I don't know, family member or something. Like, okay, that's an option. What was the third option? Let's see here. Oh, it's just a coincidence, too. It could be just a coincidence. Or option 4, as Frankie brings up, it could be a pacifista, which, there we go. And the Seraphim Jinbei seems to, like, notice the Straw Hats walk in, and then it gets up and begins to charge up a laser. So that's when Frankie's like, oh yeah, or it could be a pacifista, all right? So Seraphim Jinbei just starts attacking. He just starts blasting, all right? And it's interesting to note this because I made a video not too long ago where I was talking about, man, we gotta see, I mean, the Strats are probably gonna fight the Seraphim in this arc. They were just set up before the arcs. That's what I could assume. But I'm like, if that's the case, because, you know, there's like, we have the 10 Straw Hats, plus we have the 6 Vegapunk bodies, plus we have Bonnie there, and then you have the CP0 attacking. So I'm like, okay, if let's assume the Straw Hats and the Vegapunk bodies are going to work together at some point to maybe fight back against Cypher Pole Zero. There's only 3 members of Cypher Pole Zero. There's Kaku, Stussy, and Lucci, and that's it. Maybe Hatsuri, if you want to include the pigeon, you know, who is the strongest. But, like, at the end of the day, there's kind of like a disproportional amount of, like, enemies and allies. So I wanted to see the Strats maybe fight the Seraphim. So we gotta see Jinbei fight against his Seraphim at some point. So we see what this Jinbei could do. Also, it's mentioned that, yes, even though this Seraphim is a kid version of Jinbei, he's still just as big as adult Jinbei is right now. Okay, so that just implies that, like, they are a lot stronger. And when this, it was even mentioned by by Vegapunk later on, they might try to accelerate the growth of the Seraphim. They're going to be giants. Or maybe not giants, like actual, like, you know, like Dory and Broggy size, but they're going to be pretty damn big. They might be able to be like, you know, Big Mom or Moria size or something like that, right? Anyway, yeah, Seraphim Jinbei starts blasting, and the Straw Hats like, roll for initiative, guys, here we go. Nami takes out her climb attack, and she's like, all right, well, I guess we're fighting. I really don't want to fight. This is weird. Like, all the Straw Hats admit, this is weird. Number one, we're fighting a version of Jinbei, who's our friend, so that's weird. And then also, you know, Nami doesn't want to fight a kid, so it's like, okay, that's, this is strange, all right? What's going on with this, okay? Jinbei, or the Seraphim Jinbei, I should say, dives under the ground of the laboratory, right? So I assume it's like a metal floor, and then Jinbei just bloop, and then just jumps down and begins to swim, and I'm like, I'm reading that for the first time, and I'm like, oh my god, did Vegapunk do it? And then you have a moment with Frankie where he's like, wait a second, I know that ability! And I'm like, ah, he did it! Vegapunk made a artificial version of the swim fruit, which was Senor Pink's devil fruit. Woo! And he gave it to the Seraphim Jinbei, who is a fishman. So we got fishman DNA, Lunarian DNA, Warlord DNA, Pacifista technology, because he's firing lasers and stuff. Man, these Seraphim are going to be, like, if they can be made allies of the Straw Hats, they're going to be insanely useful for, like, this final war coming up or whatever. But yeah, when you think about it, that is effectively the best devil fruit that Jinbei could possibly eat. It was mentioned in an SBS. Now, this was not Oda. This was actually Jinbei's voice actor is the one that actually answered this question. But somebody asked Jinbei's VA, like, if Jinbei was going to eat a devil fruit, which one would he eat? And he said one of the bird fruits, because Jinbei can already swim and he can already walk on land, so maybe he would fly. However, he also mentioned that not being able to swim would take away too much from him, so he would never eat a devil fruit. However, in this context, I'd say it fits, because yes, if you eat the swim fruit, you're not able to swim in the water anymore. You still can't do that, but you could swim anywhere else. So even this would probably be the best devil fruit for Jinbei to eat, because he would still be able to use his fishman abilities. It just wouldn't be in the actual water, but effectively any solid ground becomes the consistency of water when you have this fruit. And as we're going to see in a moment here, even using the swim fruit, Jinbei, or the Seraphim Jinbei, is still able to use fishman karate with the solid, like literally you're diving into like metal or earth, and you could literally use the earth as water for fishman karate. So that's cool. He's like an earthbender and a waterbender merged into one. Okay, it's so cool here. Sanji, this is, okay. There's a moment where the Seraphim Jinbei, and by the way, Seraphim Jinbei is not talking here. He's not like, hello there, Straw Hats, I will now eliminate you, or anything like that, or hello there, I am Jinbei, first knight of the sea, first son of the sea, first I fight you now. You know, no, he's just attacking, right? And so the Seraphim Jinbei grabs Nami by her neck and like lifts her up and begins to like choke her. And at that point, all bets are off at that point. Sanji's like, all right, you know, I was a little bit, you know, reticent to attack one of my friends, but okay, no. We go, you know, Diablo Jinbei, I'm throwing it at you. Robin's there, she goes into her giant woman form and she's like, yes, you've gone too far. So it's Sanji and Robin that just both unload on this Seraphim Jinbei, right? Sanji kicks him with Diablo Jinbei, and Robin uses not the Demonio, but she uses the giant woman form she used against Black Maria, and uses the Sea Serpent Snapdragon ability. I think it's the same attack she used on Black Maria. Just like the rapid, like it's kind of like Gumu Gumu no Gatling, sort of, but with Robin, okay? And so they just like unload, and Robin's face, holy crap! Robin's face here is, I think she's more pissed than Sanji is. Like, this is a face. Like, okay? It's like, you know, Nami's getting, you know, choked out by the Seraphim Jinbei. This is a weird chapter. And Robin just, the head veins, I mean, she kind of resembles Boa Hancock in a lot of ways when Boa gets really infuriated, like whenever somebody's attacking Luffy, okay? Same kind of vibe here. Robin is like, this is unforgivable, you know, and like, I think this might be the most pissed I've ever seen Robin in this entire story. Like, I'm kind of going through the mental Rolodex right now. Like, Robin, you know, at the beginning when we first met Robin, she didn't really express her emotions all that well, you know, because of her upbringing and all the, like, the hardships she's had. She's sort of, like, always repressed that. And then, of course, we had the very emotional moment at Ennie's lobby where she's like, I want to live! But I'm trying to think, I mean, there's been other moments. Like, remember the whole thing at Thriller Bark with the Tactics 15, and then Frankie's, like, merging to create this giant robot made of the Straw Hats? Like, come on, Robin, make the right arm, or whatever. And Robin just gives, like, the death glare of, like, no. You know, I'm like, that was something, but this is pure, unabashed rage. Okay, like, yeah, this is, wow. Okay, so, yeah. Seraphim Jinbei looks unperturbed, by the way. Seraphim Jinbei is just like, Okay, so Robin attacks, Jinbei dives under the ground, uses part of the earth to make, you know, like water essentially to use Fishman Karate there. Usopp takes out the Skull Bomb grass, Jinbei dives around again, jumps up beside Usopp, tries to grab him. So basically all of the moves here is like Straw Hat attacks, Jinbei dives under the ground, and then, you know, pops up behind that Straw Hat that just attacked him to, you know, render them useless. Okay, that's the idea. Until Frankie just decides like, all right, everybody back up! It's been a while since I've had some, you know, since I ran over Big Mom's face, since I've really had time to shine in this story, alright? Everybody back up! AoE time! Radical Beam! You know, and he charges that up and everyone's like, okay, get out of the way! And then, pew, giant Radical Beam gets launched. As the beam is getting fired, we hear Edison's voice over the intercom system, and Edison says, watch out, Shark! Shark, I'm assuming, is the name that they gave to the Seraphim Jinbei, which is thankful, because now I don't have to keep referring to him as Jinbei, because that was gonna get confusing. If we had a bunch of these Seraphim running around, especially with the Warlord counterparts being around, like, that would have been really confusing if, like, Seraphim Boa fights against actual Boa, and then Seraphim Mihawk attacks, I mean, not Seraphim Mihawk, regular Mihawk attacks Seraphim Mihawk. Okay, so they all have individual names. They all have little code names or whatever. All right, that makes it easier, okay? So Seraphim Jinbei is named Shark. You know, maybe Seraphim Boa is named Snake. Seraphim Mihawk is named Sword God. I don't know. What would the Seraphim Mihawk be called? You know, comment down below on that. Anyway, though, so out of all of the attacks, though, the one attack that Edison seems particularly worried about is the Radical Beam. So Frankie fires it, and then we just cut to the lab where we see Dr. Vegapunk number 3, Edison, and he's there just like, whoa, ooh-wee, what's going on with this guy? How come he has the darn Radical Beams? Where did this guy get laser technology? We're only supposed to be the ones that have laser technology. Well, that and the Kizaru guy, but like, whatever. So Edison's freaking out. He's like, we're not supposed to put the Seraphim through the laser trials until later, implying that, like, they've never actually tested a Pacifista laser on the Seraphim yet. So we don't, I mean, I'm sure that Shark is gonna survive, but it's like they've never tested it yet. So that's why Edison was like a little worried about that, okay? So, we also see Lilith also in the lab here, and you could kind of see what was happening here, okay? So, we had Shaka, who was Logic, or the good version of Dr. Vegapunk. In the first translation, he was Logic, and then later on it was announced that he was good, whereas Lilith was evil. So that makes a little bit more sense. There's a good Vegapunk, an evil Vegapunk, and then creativity, wisdom, wrath or frustration for Atlas, and then desire or greed for York. Okay, anyway, you can see what happened there where Shaka's like, hey, bring the Straw Hats into the lab, I want to meet them. And then as soon as Edison got word of that, Edison, like, you know, messages Lilith and like, hey, Lilith, I have an idea. Come meet me at my lab. We're going to test the Straw Hats to fight against one of the Seraphim to see what happens. And Lilith, being evil, is probably like, ooh, that's devious. I love it. And then so that's, this was probably a setup here, okay? But they're all the Vegapunks, so it's like they all have equal authority, so I guess it's okay. Whatever. Anyway, Lilith is very upset by Frankie blasting the laser because she's watching it on a monitor, and she's like, what are you doing, Edison? Like, do you know how much one of those Seraphim costs us? You know what I mean? And just, if they got blown away by this weird cyborg dude with a freaking Speedo firing a laser at it. Like, that's not good. That's gonna be a huge, we're gonna be in debt here. Like, this isn't gonna be good. We don't have enough money to begin with, right? Anyway, at this point, Edison's like, wait a second, Eureka! I have an idea! And like a little light bulb appears over his head, and then, although I think it's just in the speech bubble, but I think Oda could have literally had like a little light bulb appear over his head, and that would have made sense. Anyway, Edison, by the way, is like a tiny little robot. Okay, so we saw a little bit of Shaka. Shaka we're gonna see later. Shaka looks like a human, but has just the Daft Punk helmet on. Lilith obviously looks like a regular human. The same thing with York, and Atlas is just really big, but they all look human. Edison and Pythagoras that we're going to meet here in this chapter both look like robots. Now, they might be like people inside of armor or like whatever, but they just seem like regular robots. So Edison is really tiny. He's got like an egg-shaped head. He's got like little fins, or I don't know if those are fins coming out of his back or out of his helmet. They look like, okay, if they're coming out of his helmet, he has like a little rabbit helmet, like little rabbit ears coming out of his helmet or whatever. He looks pretty cool. He looks like a collectible figure. I'm waiting for all the, you can collect all 6 Vegapunks in your Happy Meal or whatever, right? Anyway, they're talking about how, like, okay, that's SERAPHIM, the shark, you know, he's just a kid, so I don't know if he could take a laser. Wait, I have an idea. And then he goes to go draft up this new idea. Meanwhile, we see Pythagoras, who is Vegapunk number 4, who governs wisdom, okay? So we kind of get the handle here on, yeah, I'm just looking at another angle now of Edison, and he has, like, these little rabbit ear things coming out of his head. So he's like, oh, okay, I'll leave it to you, Pythagoras. So Pythagoras is like going to analyze the battle and jot down everything of like what he learns from the battle itself, okay? So this is ingenious. I can't wait to see all the different ways that Oda is going to utilize this mechanic of having 6 different bodies. From what we learn in this chapter, it is strongly implied, if not outright confirmed, that all of these bodies are connected. Okay, they all share, like, sight and memory, and they all embody a different aspect of Vegapunk, okay? And we're gonna see that very clearly with York in a moment here. But, so we have Edison, who's like, I'm gonna come up with an idea, so he goes off to, you know, sketch the idea or make the blueprints up. He also has a pet cat. You know, he's just like, oh, my hands are full. Pythagoras, you take care of the rest of these notes from this battle with Shark. I'm gonna go. Man, I need more help. I'd even take the cat help. And then there's a future cat that's just meow, and the cat's wearing a bodysuit too. So maybe the cat is like a super intelligent cat. I don't know. We only get to see the cat in this one scene. So Pythagoras is a much bigger robot. There is a basis for this. I saw it a while ago, but I forgot to look up. I forgot the name of it. There's an old school Japanese like tokusatsu show, right? Or like Super Sentai. I don't know if it was Super Sentai, but something in that vein, where there was a robot that looks exactly like this, like back in the 70s or 80s when Oda would have been growing up. So Oda most likely just based this robot, Pythagoras, off of that robot, okay? So he's just this big robot. He's got long arms, kind of a sad-looking face, and he's just like, okay, I'm gonna take notes on this battle because I'm wisdom, so I keep track of all that, whereas Edison is in charge of creating all of the blueprints, okay? And creating new ideas, while Pythagoras analyzes the ideas that already exist, I guess. So now, though, we get to a moment where we see the last Vegapunk body. We see York, who embodies greed, okay? And York is responsible for all of Vegapunk's eating and drinking and bowel movements and sleeping, because you would imagine as a... I also feel like Oda's putting a lot of his own life into this as well, because Oda, of course, is a very busy man drawing the manga of One Piece and everything like that. He doesn't really sleep all that much. I think Oda only sleeps like 5 or 6 hours a night, maybe not even that much. He doesn't sleep that much. So I can imagine Oda sitting around being like, man, I wish I had 6 different bodies so I can have one body that does all the sleeping and eating for me, and then another body that does all the research, and then another body that's evil, and then another body that's good. I can imagine this. So York's entire job, and she's still referred to as, you know, Dr. York, Dr. Vegapunk York, is her whole job is just to eat food and sleep, so the other bodies do not have to, okay? So we cut over to York, who's in her room, and you know, Edison is there working in his lab, and he's like, oh man, I'm really hungry. Hey York, can you eat some extra food for me, please? And then York's like, like, I got it, and then she's just on this bed, and she just gets really huge, just eating all this food, and then she goes to the bathroom, and then she walks out, and then she's thin again because One Piece. I actually am wondering if whether or not York's design was based off of Bonnie. Like, Vegapunk met Bonnie before, at least knows about Kuma, knows about Bonnie, so I'm wondering if, because, like, we have two characters now that are women that are very, like, big gluttons, but they can eat all they want, and, like, their body just returns to their regular shape. So it's, like, interesting. I was wondering that if there was a connection there. Anyway, though, so, yeah, and as York is eating the food and, like, digests it all and then goes to sleep, Edison and Pythagoras are just like, that was delicious. So they can taste what York is tasting, and they are supplied with the nutrients that York is taking in, okay? So that's York's entire job, it seems. Maybe she does use, like, she still is smart. She's just like every other Vegapunk, so maybe she develops stuff too, but her main job is that. It was even said here that, what was it? Oh, yeah. York is on her 4th SDM cycle. Snack, dump, and nap cycle, okay? So it's just like, eat, take a dump, and then go to bed, all right? And we see her on the bed back, like, in her slimmed down form. She looks a lot like Lilith as well. She has, like, a shirt that has Punk 6 written on it. It's, like, cuts off at her midriff. A lot of midriff, and also, I like, okay, every female character in, like, this arc, like, even the outfits that Robin and Nami got in the last chapter, it's like they're just walking around with, like, their panties exposed, right? It's a little weird. You know, like, Robin just has, like, you know, black pair of panties that she's just wearing. I like to think they're maybe more, like, the bottom of a bikini or like a swimsuit. I don't know if that's better or worse, but it's like, that's the case. And it's the case with York. York just has, like, you know, a shirt, like, just, you know, barely covering her chest, and then black panties, and then she just goes to sleep, and she's wearing a jacket, and she's going to sleep on the bed. So I'm like, okay, that's her job. Anyway, let me see if I missed anything here. Pythagoras is analyzing the battle. And they're going over, and they're just like, oh, green blood concentration has risen, and heart rate is around, what is that, 40 or 90? 90 BPMs. Okay, I'm not a doctor. Also, it was mentioned earlier that the BPM of York, the body mass index, is over 600. So, BMI over 600, and then BPMs, heartbeats per minute, of over 90 for Shark. I'm going to assume those are high numbers. I'm not a doctor or a nutrition person guy, all right? I don't know. So we're throwing out numbers, you know, BMI, BPM, CIA, you know, like, I don't know what's going on here. All these different, like, acronyms and, like, shortages and everything like that. But they mention the green blood concentration, and they mention that they might try to accelerate the growth of the Seraphim, although that's kind of, like, creates new problems because that could lead to issues. So green blood, okay, you know, to be fair, no, that wasn't, okay. I was thinking, like, do Lunarians bleed green blood? Because that would be whatever. I mean, you know, they're a new race that was just introduced. But I'm pretty sure Zoro would have mentioned that if he was, like, fighting King, and King was, like, oozing green blood. So I don't think that Lunarians bleed green. I think this is something just for the Seraphim. I think this is Vegapunk creating a blood, or a substitute for blood, that might work better. And maybe that was what was in the tube. Like, we saw that giant tube that said Seraphim number 4, and then that was probably the tube where, like Seraphim Jinbei Shark was, like, you know, created or whatever, because every clone has to be in a giant pile of goo, you know what I mean? Every clone has to be created in a clone tube. That's how science works. I don't make the rules here. So maybe a green blood, all right? So maybe the green blood is, I don't know, I'm actually starting to think about, like, black blood from Soul Eater now. You know, it's like this other substance that gives you power, but there's, like, drawbacks to it too, that kind of stuff. Maybe it is a situation like that, but it is some kind of artificial blood that Vegapunk created, and Pythagoras is analyzing the fight with Shark and just like, okay, the green blood concentration is here, Shark's beats per minute, its heart rate is up to 90, so yeah, that does sound high. That does sound rather high. I don't know, I have no frame of reference. What's a normal beat per second for beat per minute for the heart? I don't know. Anyway, So let's see here. Oh, there's a fun little scene where Edison's like head can pop off the rest of his body. So, you know, Edison's there like drawing up the blueprints for a new idea. We don't know what the new idea is yet. And then Edison just pops out of his head like, I don't know, I have so much time on I don't have that much time on my hands. I gotta write all this down, okay? So if anything, really, just take this chapter to be more of just an introduction into the funny little dynamics of all the Vegapunks and how they operate together, okay? Also, we see Atlas in this chapter too. It was also revealed that Atlas enjoyed the food that York consumed as well, because Atlas mentions, oh, I need to work off all that food now. So all that food is shared between all of the Vegapunk bodies, which makes me think at this point there's the main Stella body. I don't even know if the main Stella body can even move on his own. You know, he might be like a shriveled up old man that can't even move anymore, and he like broke up his body so these 6 other satellites take care of everything for him. You know what I mean? So yeah, and they're all interconnected, which also implies that maybe if you kill the main body, all of the other ones will die. That might be a situation there, okay? It might not be, who knows? It's like if, let's say the CP0 assassinates, you know, Vegapunk 6, York, I guess that would mean all the other Vegapunks would just have to eat on their own, because York wouldn't be able to do that anymore. Or it means like maybe it starts a chain reaction and they all die, who knows? So anyway, after that moment, you know, we have Shaka arriving. Okay, so Shaka arrives at the battle where, you know, the room where the Straw Hats were fighting Shark. And so at this point, all of the Straw Hats can't move. Like, their feet are, like, immobilized to the floor. And then Shaka walks in, and we see Shaka wearing this long coat. He's got his sleeve that says caution on it. He's got the Daft Punk helmet. He's got the number 1 on the helmet. It says, you know, Dr. Vegapunk, Shaka. And he introduces himself as Shaka. And he's like, hello, Straw Hats. I am Vegapunk number 1, Shaka. I just like saying Shaka. Okay, Honto 33, Shaka! You know, okay. So he shows up and he's like, oh, by the way, yeah, I can basically fuse all of the special boots. Now we know we're like a secret of the boots. They you know, magnetize to the floor. So I guess it's a metal floor that can be magnetized, and so now the Straw Hats cannot move, and so it's like basically immobilizes all of them. And Vegapunk mentions, you know, we have to deal with pirates and stuff. I'm gonna be more than a little cautious when it comes to that. So essentially, as long as the Straw Hats are wearing those like fancy light little boots, they could be like immobilized wherever. There's also a really funny scene here when, of course, the Straw Hats bring up, it's like, wait, you're Vegapunk too, but we met Vegapunk already. She was Lilith, and then there was another dude that was talking in the Kansai dialect, and then Shaka's like, oh yeah, well, there's 6 Vegapunks. There's more than just, so he brings them up to speed on that. And then we have this funny scene where Usopp is there, and I love Usopp. This is just the first thing that popped into his head, where he's hearing about like, oh, there's 3 different Vegapunks, there's 4, 5, 6 Vegapunks, and then Usopp's just like, I'm actually Vegapunk too. And then Frankie calls him out on it immediately. Frankie's just like, would you cut it out? But that's funny. That's so Usopp. That's just like, okay, so everybody on this island is apparently, like, as far as they're concerned, everybody they've met up to this point is a Vegapunk. So Usopp is like, maybe I'm a Vegapunk too. And we all know that sometimes Usopp's lies end up being true. So maybe Usopp was a Vegapunk. Maybe he was a Vegapunk the whole time. Maybe he was a Vegapunk. Maybe he's the 7th Vegapunk. Okay. All right, hold on. Let me think about this for a moment. Okay. Vegapunk had one of his original creations, like a prototype satellite body, okay? And it got lost somewhere. I don't know. It ended up in the East Blue somehow. I don't know what happened. Satellite shenanigans or whatever. Anyway, it landed in the East Blue. And then Yasopp and Banshina, this is like a Superman opening, but it works. Or maybe Goku, whatever. Anyway, they find this capsule in Syrup Village, and they open up the capsule, and there's not SERAPHIM, there's Vegapunk's 7th body. There's Usopp right there. And then, you know, Yasopp and Banshina decide to adopt Usopp as one of their own, and then Yasopp leaves because he couldn't handle it, and then Banshina dies, and then because of the leaking radiation from Usopp, and I don't know, it's just like, it's an idea. Alright, yeah, Vegapunk, Usopp is not Vegapunk, although, you can't rule anything out here, but it is a really funny scene. Okay, so, at this point, the first thing that Shaka really says to the Straw Hats is, do you think this island is in the future, or do you think this is an island of the future? And Frankie is the first person to respond to that. Frankie is just like, oh, what are you talking about? Of course this place is super from the future. Check out all the cool stuff we've seen since we've gotten here. Giant mechanized sea beasts, Vega Force 1, infinite staircases, magic boots, a clone of our helmsman that attacked us. That was a little weird, but okay, science. You know, all this crazy stuff we've been seeing, right? Green goo in test tubes. Of course this is Futureland. And, you know, Frankie's going on and on and on about this. And then he says, it's actually quite the contrary. What would you say if I told you this land of Egghead was a land of the past? And then, you know, like, Frankie and all the other Straw Hats are like, question mark? Like, what is that? I don't know. And now we cut back over to the trash heap, like the garbage pile that Bonnie and Luffy's group were in last time, where they picked up the lightsaber. And so they're walking through the junk pile, and they see like a giant mech, but it's like, they can tell it's an actual robot because it's rusting, so it's not a hologram or anything. So they find this old robot like in the junk heap, all rusted to pieces. It's got like a sword or like a spear or something piercing it. There's moss growing on it, so it's been there for a very long time. It's all rusted to hell. And they're like, wow, check out this robot. And Bonnie is surprised by it. Bonnie and Jinbei are the ones that actually understand what this means, because it's like very clearly, like everything else on this island is brand new. Even the lightsaber is, well, maybe the lightsaber might be part of, you know, we'll get to it, okay. Anyway, they see this giant robot there that's clearly been rusted away for, you know, centuries. And they're like, wait a second, how could something like this exist and be that old? How could a robot, this thing looks like hundreds of years old. That doesn't make any sense, right? This would have been long before Vegapunk even existed, right? Right? And we find out, we cut back over to Vegapunk's lab where Shaka says, this island that we're on, it's based off of another civilization that was on this planet about 900 years ago or so, I'd say. And its technology was not unlike Egghead's during the time of its day, during the apex of its civilization. And we find out that Egghead is actually a recreation of the ancient civilization that existed during the Void Century, which was in fact actually not a primitive civilization, but was actually a highly technologically advanced civilization. Called it. I'm done! I'm done! Alright? I'm done! I got my One Piece verification validation. Now, okay, here's the thing. If anybody out there would like to comment on when exactly I said that, please let me know, because I forgot. So I've definitely said this before, multiple times. I remember mentioning this in a few videos where it's like, yeah, I think back in the past, like, before, and I'm probably not the first person to mention this either. I mean, like every One Piece theory's happened at some point, but I remember bringing this up in a few videos, like videos on the Void Century or something, where I'm like, oh, what if it's like the, because this is like one of my favorite theories, like what if it's like we go the Yor Hunter from the Future route with it? That's a reference for you. Or it's like we go back in time, but it's actually not more primitive. It was actually super advanced, and then the world government crushed that technologically advanced civilization. That's why they had to wipe all the records, and they kind of brought, they didn't like bring the era into a new technologically advanced area. They actually reduced it. They brought it back to antiquity, okay? They devolved, in a sense, okay? Now what the world government is. But because of that, the control the world government exerts on everything now, and how things are not technologically advanced as they used to be, the world government has a better control on everything now. They have a better grip on everything, right? So, you know, it would be like, imagine if like in 500 years, there was something that happened with our modern Earth, and like everything, like the internet, all computers, smartphone technology, all that stuff was lost. And in like 500 years, we're back in like the medieval ages or something, right? It might be like something like that. So, I don't remember where I said this, but I said it a few times. So if somebody could find that, like it was in this video you said that, at like, you know, 15 minutes in or something, that would be great, because I've made a lot of One Piece videos. There's like 2,000 on the damn channel, all right? But anyway, I said it though, guaranteed. Okay, anyway, man, I'm really excited for this one now. This is great. Okay, so we're probably gonna find out the name of the ancient civilization. We're gonna find out stuff about the Void Century. We're already finding out stuff about the Void Century. I don't know, does Vegapunk say anything specific? He says this is an island of the past.
you know, that long ago there was once a highly advanced civilization, not unlike Egghead, a civilization from 900 years ago. Would you believe me? That's all he says. That's all he says. And then we cut back to the last scene is with them looking at the giant robot, Bonnie, Luffy's group, and Luffy's just like, I want to ride the giant rusted robot, and that's it. Holy crap, no break next week. No break next week. Okay, so we're going to find out the name of the ancient civilization. We're going to find out stuff that... Now, okay, Vegapunk might not know everything, okay? Vegapunk might not know every little aspect of the Void Century because the world government has really been keeping that on lockdown. But also, the world government thinks that Vegapunk knows too much and they're sending assassins to kill him. So, you know, he might actually know a fair amount of the Void Century. He might just be able to piece this all together. If anybody would have been able to figure this out, it would be him. Robin is there. Robin is right there. And we didn't actually see Robin's reaction to this, you know? So he's going on, you know, Shaka is going on and on about, like, oh, the past. And we see Frankie's reaction to it because Frankie's, like, the mechanic. He's the engineer. He's really excited, too. But Robin would have a whole other take on this. She would have a whole other paradigm. I'm sure Robin has pieced together, like, she doesn't know a lot about the Void Century, but she knows a lot about stuff that happened after, and she knows a few things about what happened before. Because remember, she went to the city of Shandora in the sky, and it was talking about, like, 1100 years ago, like, well before the Void Century. Shandora was this great city or whatever. So she knows a little bit about before and after. I think just tangentially, because of that information, she has to be able to piece together a little bit about what the Void Century was. And obviously the Kozukis from Wano, they tie into all this. The Minks tie into this a little bit. So she has to have a little bit of knowledge about what happened. She just can't all connect the dots yet. Vegapunk might be able to connect the dots for her and be like, oh, okay, you know this much. Well, what about this and this? And like, oh my God. So, and Vegapunk might know everything. He might straight up just know everything. Just like, yeah, I know about the Void Century. You want to learn about it? Okay, come on. And maybe Robin will flash back to the moment when she talked to Rayleigh about it. And Rayleigh was like, you know, yeah, we know about it. I can tell you if you want me to. But I think you should stay on your journey because there's nothing you can really do about it now. But, you know, that was 2 years ago. Robin has done a lot of growing since then. It wasn't a boob joke. This is serious. This is serious. Robin's boobs did grow a few centimeters, though, from the time skip. But that's not important right now. That is not relevant to the conversation, okay? What is relevant to the conversation is Robin's gone through a lot of growth since then. She's seen a lot more stuff. She's read more poneglyphs. She's seen the apology letter at Fishman Island. She's seen the road poneglyphs at Zoe and at, you know, I guess she's read the one that they got from, you know, Totland. You know, they showed her that one. And also she saw the one at, you know, not Egghead, at Wano. So, and then, you know, Pluton and everything. So she learns a lot more about the stuff. So she might be like, you know what? I think I'm ready to hear about the knowledge. If you know what happened during the Void Century, I think I'm ready to know about this. And maybe she'll figure out what Rayleigh meant by, you know, there's nothing you could do about it as you are right now. And maybe that she would know. Because back then, Robin didn't even know about the road poneglyphs back then. She didn't know anything about Joy Boy back then. She only knew a little bit about the ancient weapons at that point. So she's learned a lot since Sabaody, okay? So this might be the moment where she can actually do something about it now. Whew. All right, well, this has been a great chapter. It was funny because most of it was just kind of comic relief and a little bit of action with Shark and everything fighting the Straw Hats. That's really cool. We didn't really get a lot of scenes with Luffy's group, but that's fine. We got a little scene with Zoro and Brook at the beginning. That was cool, and then Caribou, of course. But then it ends with this big bombshell of like, oh yeah, fun little chapter. We got the Seraphim running around. We got the Vegapunk bodies. Yeah, it's great. Oh, by the way, Void Century time. It's like, all right, well, that was going to happen at some point, but here we go. Or Vegapunk might not know anything. He might just be like, I know bits and pieces, and maybe he doesn't know much more. Maybe he knows a little bit more than Robin, but not a lot, maybe. Anyway, that'll be, we'll talk about that in another video. Anyway, thanks for watching the review, everybody. This was crazy. One Piece Film Red discussion will be up tomorrow, Sunday. I'll get that out at some point, and then we'll follow up with this, because this is crazy. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. Tekking signing out. Later, everyone.